We are live now.
Okay, sorry about that. And Jack, yes, if you could call us to order, that would be great.
All right, everybody, welcome. I'm Jack Meadows. I'm the Town of Solid City Planning Community Development Director, also the RTCC Chair. Welcome to today's meeting. Carolyn has invited us to this Zoom meeting with an agenda that was part of the email. And normally at this point in time, we do quick introductions. If the group thinks that's fine, let's move forward. I'm gonna just look at my screen and call out names, if that's all right. So Carolyn and Matt, I think, have introduced themselves. Scott Walston.
Scott Walston, Transportation Planning Division. I'm the Eastern Piedmont Supervisor.
Thank you, Scott. Good seeing you.
Okay, good seeing you.
Yep. Jamie Walters.
Senior Planner, Moore County.
Thank you, Jamie. Tom.
Hi, y'all. Orange County Planning and Inspections Department, Tom Tenike, and Vice Chair to the RTCC.
Thank you. All right. Next is Darren.
Darren Birch, Planning and Inspections Director for the Village of Pinehurst.
Thank you, Darren. Catherine Vollert. Catherine, I can't hear you. I seen you come off mute, but I couldn't hear you. All right, we'll come back to Catherine tomorrow. All right, how about Brian?
Good morning, Brian Kluchar, Division 8 Planning Engineer. Thank you.
All right, Brandon.
Hello, sorry, I was on mute. This is Tamara Niagavon, Corridor Development Engineer, Division 7.
Thank you, Tamara. Brandon Dawson.
Hi, all. This is Brandon Dawson. I'm a Conservation and Transportation Planner for Chatham County.
Thank you, Brandon. Catherine, Nick Morrison.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Nick Morrison, Transportation Planner with NCDOT's Integrated Mobility Division.
Patrick.
Hey, everybody. Patrick Norman, Division Engineer, Division 8.
Thank you, sir. Danielle Orloff.
Town of Aberdeen Planner.
Thank you. Stephen.
Robinson, Division 7 Planning Engineer, NCDOT.
All right, Teresa.
Hey, Jack, it's Teresa Thompson with the Town of Pittsboro. I was having issues with my computer this morning, so I called in on my cell phone. So hopefully you can hear me okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody. Carol or Matt, did y'all see anybody else I need to introduce?
I don't think so.
All right.
No.
You still good on your quorum?
Yep.
All right. So purpose of the agenda today would be we're going to let Carolyn and Matt take this over.
Is to talk about the potential swap for our 5961 NC 87, and just as to mention and reiterate, we are not making a final decision at this meeting. We are just discussing the possibility of this swap. It would need to go back to the TCC and the TAC in August if we come up with some possible scenarios for that swap. That's all I have. Matt, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to stop that share. So to jump in here, I did a spreadsheet, which I believe I've sent to all of you, or a link to it, and I've highlighted the project that we're trying to swap. And what I did for that is I didn't delete them. I removed from the spreadsheet all of the projects that were over 110%. And I just left in the projects that could be swapped from DOT's perspective, and we're under the cost for the 5961. And then I looked at a couple other variables, how close they were to being let for right-of-way or construction, and where they're located. I will note that there is only one other project in Chatham County, and I hope I did that right, I'm sorry. And so I'm not in that project even, and the reason why I say this is because typically at the RPOs, we tend to try and do the swaps or changes within the county. But in this case, there's only one other project in Chatham that's eligible for swapping. And it's not quite the same amount of money. The 5961 is about $17.9 million. And the other project is, I think, 3.95. So looking at other counties' projects, I color coded that spreadsheet and said whether it was in another county. And like I said, the other thing that I included was where the funding was coming from. So there's some funding sources that are harder to move around than others, even though that they were included. So I don't know if you guys all have that spreadsheet, but I do. And let me see if I can pull that up and share that. Okay. So I just changed the spreadsheet that I had received from DOT, and this is the project that we're trying to find a swap for. And these are the other projects. I wasn't necessarily going to suggest a possible path forward. I didn't know if other people had looked at the spreadsheet and had thought of projects that potentially could be switched. And the truth of it is we don't have to switch anything. Again, everybody has to agree if we do move forward with some scenarios to bring back to the TCC. So I guess I'm going to open it up to the floor, maybe to Teresa first, just to briefly say why Pittsboro wants to have this project swap back in as a reminder to all of you, because I think you guys talked about this last time, but just to let me know a little bit more. So
Sure. I would say one of the biggest reasons is to defer truck traffic off of 15501 that goes straight through our downtown area and traffic circle. The traffic circle was actually reduced in size to, I think, deter truck traffic eventually. So we're just looking at alternatives, and 87 seemed to be an option to look at. So, we're just trying to see if we can go that route.
Okay. And so I guess I was mistaken about this project, but so do we have anybody or do we think when we're talking about these swaps, other than the ones in Chatham County, the other representatives, are there any projects that would be a potential to be switched out?
So I guess I will go ahead and throw out that there have been discussions about the possibility of doing something with project, where's the number? U3628, which is the NC 2427 15501 intersection in Carthage. That is a project that is currently in the STIP as a $3 million project. Based on some additional analysis that's been done, it kind of looks like the best solution there may actually be to just add a signal, which is not a $3 million project. And so there's been talk about that as a possibility of something that could be swapped out. But I will also say that is only a $3 million project. And so we could potentially use that as part of a package of projects to swap in something else, but that's not going to be a big enough project to cover the whole thing.
Hey, Matt, this is Patrick. Can I say a couple things real quick, just to kind of give an update? Obviously we got an email yesterday from Van, and I think you're part of the work group still, right, Matt? Carol maybe too, but we got some good news with the budget being passed on Monday with the sales tax transfers that the legislature enacted. So Don't know the exact figures yet, but it appears it's going to bring a pretty significant amount of money into the program. So we'll probably have to kind of reset again on our programming. So the unknowns are, will NC 87, end up being funded because of the new money? Don't know that yet, but I think there's going to be some time extensions probably given on the swapping process, because obviously I think if we bring more projects back into the funding category, there'll be potentially other projects that we could look at for swaps. So I think if, just to say that if we don't find an obvious candidate out of this list, that, in a month or so, there might be another, portfolio of projects we can look at. So that's good news. I think, what we don't know again is NC 87 going to be funded, but we might have other opportunities to look at if we don't find a solution today.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry, Matt. Yeah, that did come out, and as Patrick said, we just don't know anything yet. So if we don't come up with a solution here, we probably will need to come back and have a brief update meeting in a little while.
Hi, all, this is Brandon Dawson from Chatham County. Looking at that, the remaining project in Chatham, I think when we had initially looked at this list, our staff looked at that project and had thought that it was within the Pittsburgh's decision for swapping in and out. Is that an accurate assumption to make? I want to make sure that we're at least correct in assuming that that's not ours to say like yes or no on.
So I will put it this way. That project is within Pittsburgh's, part of it's in their current boundaries, part of it's in their ETJ.
Okay.
At the end of the day, any decision about a project swap, I mean, it's the TARPO, RTCC, and RTAC that are going to make that decision. Traditionally, we have always kind of deferred to what the local areas want to do, and we have generally not done something that goes against what a local area wants to do. But at the end of the day, it is this committee and the RTAC that will make that decision.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And I will note that even if Pittsburgh wanted to swap that project, it's not quite enough. It's to be within 110%, it's 16.1 million basically, and that's project is 15.4. That doesn't mean that there couldn't be a slight shift or something, but just as an FYI, it may mean it has to be part of the package.
Hey, this is Jamie Walters with Moore County. So just a question or maybe an idea to throw out there. Since U3628 potentially would not need the whole 3 million, could it not be bundled with the other Chatham project to swap in this one?
It could theoretically. I will say though that the other project there that's in Pittsburgh, the R5724B, that project is pretty far along and has been in the works for a long time. So I'd like to maybe hear from Teresa what Pittsburgh's feeling would be, but my guess is Pittsburgh doesn't necessarily want to remove that project.
No, sir.
Okay, then follow-up question. Sorry. Teresa, this one's for you then. So since this is Pittsburgh wanting to swap in, do you have any ideas on what maybe from this spreadsheet or outside of the spreadsheet that Pittsburgh proposes to swap out?
So I was thinking if there were other projects that would be eligible to swap out, that like what we were just discussing with the U3628, just to hear from other jurisdictions if there were options. Looking at the spreadsheet, you know, it didn't seem that promising, but I thought maybe through discussion, having this meeting and having discussion on it, there might be opportunities to look at. But, you know, I don't want to speak for other jurisdictions on projects that could, you know, be swapped out. I had a conversation, you know, with Matt and Carol originally just to see what it looked like. And it seemed like this U3628 was the most obvious choice. But again, it's not nearly as much cost that would be within that 10%. So I think that was the, you know, purpose of this meeting, was just to see what kind of other options there might be for discussion. Was there anything that you thought that could potentially be an option to look at?
No, I mean, before we had the spreadsheets, we had a lot of, you know, what if scenarios, but once we got the spreadsheet and kind of saw what our options were, the only sort of obvious one that remained was that Carthage project.
Yeah.
And hey, this is Stephen Robinson from Division 7. I know that this has already been mentioned, but with the additional funds that have become available to the department, we've been, you know, it seems as though the swap period and the public comment period are going to be delayed, and potentially there might be some more funds for projects. So the way our division is approaching it right now is just kind of waiting for a little bit more direction. And depending on if any other projects are moved up, I know everybody, it seems like, has projects that they want to move up, but not necessarily any that they want to get rid of. We will see, because the dollar deltas are going to kind of be key as far as what we want to swap out and everything, because in reality, while we might have some that are not as high priority, we probably don't have any that are going to match exactly to that 10%. So with the new information that comes out, we might see that there might be a little bit of a delta that might become available. But once again, we won't know anything until a little bit later time. And then of course, the funding categories are going to be key to that as well. But once again, we will evaluate once we kind of get a little bit more direction.
Is there any estimated time frame on that?
I will tell you that Matt and I are both part of the work group, and we've been asked to weigh in on those decisions to make a recommendation. And that meeting isn't until next week. And then so it will be a couple, probably a week or two before we know for sure what the new schedule is going to be.
Okay, thank you.
So given all of this, and that we're not seeing a lot of options other than the Carthage project at this time, do we want to just say that if we are going, just say that we will regroup once we see the new schedule, and try and have another meeting when we see the new project list?
I think that makes sense.
Agreed. I think that seems reasonable. I guess I'm also wondering, and this may be too theoretical because we're still waiting on things that might shape that theory, but with regard to anything that might, you know, be taken off, you know, and I don't remember if it was Stephen or someone else that said essentially like, yeah, it makes sense. People might want stuff to go in, but it's harder to take stuff, you know, off. Is there any rationale to like the probability that anything taken off could make its way, you know, as a function of the next like spot process into STIP? Or is that?
I'm sure Matt has said this, but any project that is taken out of the 2020 to 2029 STIP, at least as we are currently proposing it, would be called what's known as a carryover project. So it would actually be submitted directly into SPOT. Next round, we wouldn't even have to consider it as a new submission. It would already be there and it would get scored. And then depending on the score, it could potentially make it into to the next draft. Yes.
Okay,
It,
so that was the
just,
part.
yeah, just to reiterate, just because we're taking a project out today does not mean that project cannot go back in at some future point. And we do adjust typically the STIP every 2 years. So there's always an opportunity to put this project back in. It scored well once. I don't know how old it is, but it should score okay to well again. There's been some substantial changes in how we score from the earliest days, but not so much for the more recent days. So.
Hey, that second part was really speaking. I do remember the carryover reference, but you spoke to, yes, it's not a guarantee because the scoring process is not 1-for-1, but it seems like a rationally safe bet. And so maybe what we're looking at if something gets removed is just a longer period of time before it gets done, as opposed to it's removed and I'm fearful that may never come back in the same iteration or a better iteration than it is right now. That's really what the basis of my question was.
Yeah, and that is always, we are always able to put stuff back in that didn't make it. Now, of course, sometimes it's not rational to do that if it didn't make it the last round and it scores poorly, you might not want to do that. But this project has obviously been committed at least once. So chances are, and like I said, depending on how recently ago, that's a word or a phrase, it may be fairly easy to get it back in, but also it will be competing against more projects. So it's never 100% a given. Matt, did you want to add anything to that I may have misspoke on?
Well, so I guess I'm unclear on specifically which project we're talking about here, but for example, if we wanted to talk about the NC 87 project, that one, I would say historically has not scored as well. It kind of got in the year that they had the HB 97, that they had a bunch of extra money and got a bunch of extra projects added.
Okay.
So, you know, that one historically wasn't a great scorer, just throwing that out there.
And I didn't know that history. That's why I said the longer ago it was, the more variable that will be. So,
and just real quick, Matt, I think that's exactly like what the core of the onion that I'm trying to get down to, which is that there may be some projects, perhaps like this one, that based on the time and context, it would be better or more rational to say, yes, because this one had a less likely shot, let's push it ahead. Let's switch some things out or a thing out that very highly will likely do well on the next round. And yes, it's maybe a couple more years before it comes to fruition, but that overall is worth it. It's worth it in the pushing something through that has a less likely shot, which is a terrible sentence with bad grammar, but I think y'all understand the point I'm trying to make.
Yes, yeah, I do. But again, you know, as Patrick said, we don't have to make a final decision today. So we can see if we get other potential swaps or possibility for swaps going forward. So
sounds good. Thank you.
Did anybody else have any suggestions or comments? So I will be reached. I mean, like I said, so if we were to put this for today, we don't see any really good potential swaps. One thing I could do, and I can go back and look at, is to put in the spreadsheet what round these projects were committed. That would at least tell you a little bit more about the variability and whether that project would score well again. I know that information exists and I can send that back out, but we can just wait and see what the new data shows us if it changes anything here, and see how 87 or this NC or R5961 does, and maybe it gets picked up in the next little bit. And then, because if it is that long ago, Matt, wasn't that round or P4?
I think that was P4. Yeah.
So there's a chance that this one would be picked up, because we're still, at least a proposal, and again, I can't make any guarantees, but the proposal is to stick with everything that we're doing right now, and I don't think that's changing, but there's always a possibility. So it's seniority. So it's, can you get through all of the P4 projects now, or more of the P4? So there is a possibility that this project would be added to the next STIP anyways.
And well, so the other thing to know about the 87 project, just to throw this out there, it was not a commit. It was an uncommitted project. So that's
okay,
something else to throw in there.
And just so everybody is aware, because it was an uncommitted project, it would have recompeted next round, even if under the old scenario. So like I said, this project will still be in the hopper to be considered for the next round of, not this one we're working on, but the new one that's coming up. And so it will still have an opportunity to make it into a STIP. But if this project was not committed for the last round, yeah, it may not be committed for this one. So with that, I guess we leave it as it is, and I will reach back out once we know a new schedule and schedule another meeting. Is Thursdays at this time generally good for most people, or do you want me to send out a doodle poll before I send out the next meeting invite?
I think depending on, I think it partly depends on the schedule that comes out of next week's work group meeting. If that schedule is pushed back far enough, you may not even need to schedule a special meeting. You may be able to just do this at a regular meeting. We really only had to do this special meeting because of the particular timing window we had originally for doing the swaps. So
yeah, and that's true. And considering both of the scenarios that are some of the information I've seen, yeah, it probably wouldn't be difficult to do this at a regular meeting. So any final thoughts?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I just wanted to say thanks to Matt and Carol for working with us, and thanks to everyone for meeting. I appreciate it and look forward to seeing what else can happen with 87.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will be back in touch once we know a little bit more about the adjusted schedule.
Thanks for putting this tool together, Carol. This helped take something that I feel like it's still hard for me to wrap my mind around and be able to just, make more educated understanding of things. So thank you for putting this together.
And Jack, I'll turn it back over to you as the chair.
Okay. If that's the end of business, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion to adjourn. Oh.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Matt and Carol.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.